Welcome to this John F. Wood Center Makerspace Independent Learning tutorial. In this video, we will be taking a look at 3D file building using a free web-based tool called TinkerCAD. We will be talking about importing an existing file, changing viewing perspective, adding and manipulating shapes, alignment tools, grouping and ungrouping, positive versus negative space, and exporting as an STL. To begin, we will open the internet browser and navigate to tinkercad.com. If you are on one of the desktops in the Makerspace, you should find TinkerCAD as a Google Chrome bookmark for quick access. TinkerCAD should be logged onto our Makerspace account by default, and you are welcome to work on this account and save your files here. However, you can also create your own free account if you'd like to save all your projects in one place. From this main page, you can also select Create on the far right, then 3D Design. This will bring us up to the work plane, which does not equate exactly to the scale of the 3D print beds, but is pretty close. So imagining it that way can help us with some rough scaling. On the right side, you can see that we have a library of different shapes. There are a bunch more complex structures if you scroll through the drop-down list, but let's just start with our basic shapes. You can see little view prompters on the left side here. We can zoom in, zoom out, and switch our perspective view. To get a quick change of viewpoint, you can hold down your right mouse button and drag your perspective in different directions. You can quickly switch from the front to the top to the back by clicking on the face of this little cube guide. What we're going to do in our tutorial today is to make some customizations to a very popular print called the CaliCat, or the calibration cat. You might remember him from our 3D printing tutorial. To import a file, select Import from above the Shape menu on the right. I thought CaliCat would make a great base model for us today, to demonstrate the basics of how to use the different tools in TinkerCAD. Starting with the Shape library, you can click and drag any desired shape onto the work plane. Any shapes that are touching on the work plane will be treated as one attached object in our final export. Why don't we use the scribble tool to make a more unique shape? I thought maybe this CaliCat could be a California cat, so let's get him dressed up for the beach. I'm going to do my best to use the mouse to draw an approximate shape that I have in mind. Then we can press Done, and TinkerCAD will take our drawing and extrude it into a three-dimensional form. Next, we need to make this the right scale to fit our CaliCat as an accessory. You can change the scale by clicking and dragging on the little white squares that appear at the corners of the object when you select it. You'll see when you click on the corner squares without dragging that it will present you with the dimensions of the shape in millimeters. You can manually change the scale by typing in your exact values. You can also rescale by dragging these little boxes. If you hold Shift while you're dragging, the aspect ratio will stay the same as the size changes, meaning it won't get warped or bent out of shape. In addition to the little corners that allow you to change the size, these little curved arrows appear around the shape when they're selected, and these can allow you to rotate the object on different axes. If we want to prop up this flower so that it sits on the face of our cat's head, then we can click and drag this rotating arrow. If you drag it closely to the object, it will snap turn at different increments. If you want to rotate it more precisely, as you are dragging the rotation arrow, bring your mouse out further away from the object, and you can rotate a single degree at a time. You will also see this little black cone shape when the object is selected. This controls its height placement, aka how close or far away it is from the bed. I'm going to use this cone to raise the flower up. Then I can drag it over to where I want it to sit on my CaliCat's face. As a reminder, you can also hold down your right mouse button and swipe around to quick change your perspective. I was also thinking that we could add a couple of accessories that I downloaded from the internet. I decided on and downloaded these cute little sunglasses and this surfboard from thingiverse.com. As we did before, we can scale these objects as needed. If we have no specific size or parameters to follow, we can scale the objects by comparing them to each other and changing them until they fit just right. It can help to try to position them roughly where you would like them to go. You can also use the arrow keys to make minute movements. In this case, it snaps back and forth farther than I would like it to, so we can go down to the bottom right and change the snap distance to a smaller increment. One useful habit for building files in 3D is getting used to looking at things from differing perspectives frequently. Viewing from only one or two viewpoints can create illusions and obstructions. To get a quick change of viewpoint, you can hold down your right mouse button and drag your perspective in different directions. We can also use the text shape to add a message onto our object. Again, we'll have to scale it to fit. From this text shape menu, you can find the font drop-down menu and the text settings. By keeping this text as positive space, it gives a sort of surface relief effect, sticking out of the board. However, we can also switch it to negative space or hole, which will treat the text shape a little bit like a cookie cutter and indent the text rather than having it stick out. Next, we can get the text to sit right in the center of the surfboard by using the alignment tool. First, you'll select all the objects you want to align by dragging a selection box over them, or by holding Shift and clicking them one by one. Select Align from the top menu bar, and it will display a framework around the objects, with nodes at the center and either side of each axis. For example, we want this text to be in the exact center of the board, so the center node is the one we would select in this case. But you can also align it to the right and left. Once centered, we can lower this text slightly into the board. I don't really want it to go all the way through though, so I changed my camera perspective to estimate how deep we might want it. In order to see what it looks like when combined, we can select both shapes again and use this tool up here called Group. It will combine the selected shapes into one entity, and these shapes are not permanently fused. They can be ungrouped at any time. I also thought it would be cool to demonstrate how TinkerCAD can create a custom 3D shape from a vector-based file, such as an SVG. Why don't we put a shark bite through our newly customized surfboard? In this next clip, I used Inkscape to convert a JPEG I found on Google Images into a vector and modified it into the perfect shark bite shape. If you want to learn about vectors and how to create and modify them, consider checking out the next video in our independent learning tutorial series. It will be focused on the free open-source vector-based software Inkscape and how we can use it to create files for the laser cutter, Cricut, and embroidery machine alike. Now that we have saved our 2D file as an SVG, we can click Import as we did for our 3D shapes and select it from the File Explorer. TinkerCAD will automatically import our SVG as an extruded 3D object. Now that we have scaled the shape to fit our surfboard, you can see more closely the concept of positive versus negative space. With negative space, you can imagine the shape as almost acting like a cookie cutter or an eraser, clearing away what it touches. You can use the group tool to see the result of positive and negative shapes overlapping. Once I'm satisfied with the design, I like to group it all together to make sure that it will print as visualized. Before we save and export our work, I like to rename the file to a specific title. TinkerCAD is really good at coming up with these silly little names. Better than Untitled 1, if you ask me, but it will make things a lot easier for us later if we can give it a name that is recognizable. Returning to the menu on the right, on the side of the import button we used earlier, we can find Export. And when we click on it, we can see that TinkerCAD will prompt us to select a file format to save it in. Most frequently, we're going to save it as a .stl, which is best for 3D printing. You may also have noticed that we can export our object back into a two-dimensional SVG file. If we choose this option, it will create a 2D vector based on the surface that is touching the print bed. If we open our exported file in Cura, we can see our California cat is now ready to slice and print. Thank you for joining us in learning the basics of 3D modeling using TinkerCAD. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask a Makerspace associate. You can revisit this tutorial at any time for a refresher, and you can focus on specific chapters by finding the chapter timecodes in the description.